What's interesting about this was there was some discussion at the mission all-hands meeting about, they wanted to know why the planning and synchronization piece wasn't the first part of the mission statement. And in Admiral Olson's opinion, the most important thing that SOCOM does is its Title 10 functions, which is to man, train, and equip soft forces and provide them with the combatant commanders. He did not want to put the planning and synchronization mission first. Next chart. This is the organization, SOCOM organization, current organization. Two things I'd like to point out. We have a new Deputy Commander, Lieutenant General Frank Kearney. His background is in the Rangers. He was most recently the SOC CENT Commander. He values and appreciates civil affairs. He has a good understanding of civil affairs. The other new person in the organization is the Director for the Center for Special Operations, or the CSO. That's Lieutenant General Friedevich, Dave Friedevich. He was the SOC PAC Commander. His forte is in indirect action, FID, and he's also a strong supporter of, and understands civil affairs. It's no secret why those two people were put in those positions. Not only are they very capable, but Admiral Olson and General Brown understand the importance of indirect action, and they want to emphasize that more in what SOCOM does. SOCOM is organized by centers. They keep the J codes so nobody really understands, what the centers are, what they stand for. SOKF. People have totally no idea what SOKF does. SOKF, what I have that work for me are the J7, 9, and 10. The 7 is doctrine, language, education, exercises, military mission training and preparation systems, and a few other activities. J9, futures, concept development, wargaming and simulation, modeling, and the J9, that's our newest organization, just got established a few weeks ago. That's irregular warfare. These are just some of the soft characteristics that Admiral Olson feels are important in our soft warriors. What I'd like to point out here is these are exactly identical to the same characteristics we're looking for in our civil affairs folks. Savvy and diplomatic awareness, adaptability to changing environments. It's civil affairs. It's what we want in our guys. Okay, now let's get into the doctrine. This slide shows you the doctrine relationship between U.S. SOCOM and the U.S. Army JFK Center for Special Warfare Center and School. SOCOM is responsible for joint doctrine and is assisted by SWIC, which provides the necessary technical expertise to ensure the doctrine is both relevant and state-of-the-art. SWIC is also responsible to develop Army doctrine, tactics, techniques, and procedures to maintain CA capabilities as required by joint doctrine. Well, what I do at my level as far as doctrine is SOKF is responsible for oversight and policy guidance, not only in doctrine, but in a lot of those other areas that I talked about. Within my J7, known as the Directorate of Joint Soft Knowledge, is the Joint Doctrine branch. And this is where the fundamental principles mentioned in this formal definition of joint doctrine are developed. You should consider joint doctrine and joint publications as the same. The one point I want to make about doctrine is that doctrine are really guidelines. They're sort of like, the doctrine is sort of like those courses you took in college. They're all theoretical. I mean, they sound great, but doctrine needs to be tailored based on, and it's tailored based on the experiences of the leadership and based on the reality of the situation that you're in. So doctrine are only guidelines. This next chart shows the 6 publications that SOCOM is the lead agent for. I want to point out that we've recently consolidated Joint Pub 3-57 CMO, and Joint Pub 3-57.1 Joint Civil Affairs, and expect to reissue the revised publication as Joint Pub 357 in March of 2008. I also want to highlight the new pub, currently identified as Joint Pub 3YY Counterterrorism, which we are developing concurrently with the U.S. Army as they lead development of Joint Pub 3XX counterinsurgency. This slide addresses those pubs SOCOM develops, which is only part of our joint doctrine responsibilities. Once developed, we ensure special operations and CMO and civil affairs operations doctrine is integrated into all other joint doctrine within what is known as the Chairman's Joint Doctrine Hierarchy of Publications, reflected by the next slide. This is an eye chart. You obviously can't see it, but our doctrine is reflected in all these other pubs as each is revised. Conversely, we ensure our doctrine reflects evolution of all other pubs as well. The process of integration of the 77 pubs is the task of the Joint Doctrine Development Community, depicted by the next slide. Doctrine development is a highly vetted process. There are 15 voting members of whom must agree before a joint pub is approved by the chairman of the JCS. The membership consists of the joint staff, the 5 services, and 9 combatant commands. U.S. Joint Forces Command has overall responsibility to maintain the joint doctrine development system for the chairman of JCS. Accordingly, JIFCOM works closely with U.S. SOCOM as we develop and integrate joint special operations doctrine. And within U.S. SOCOM, the headquarters staff, our components, and JSAL are also very involved with our development responsibilities. I can tell you Bird, some of his folks, and other people from USASOC and the civil affairs community helped us write the draft of the joint pub. The influence of doctrine is widespread, as depicted in this next slide. These are all the areas that are interrelated with joint doctrines. Next chart, Jack. Doctrine development consists of 2 distinct elements: production management processes and subject matter content. My joint doctrine branch chief established this timeline in March of 2006, and we were on schedule. Once the joint staff approves and publishes the program directives governing the organization and developmental plan for a pub, we have 18 months to complete development. The subject matter presented in a pub is written to provide guidance for Joint Force commanders, their staffs, the services, U.S. government agencies, intergovernmental organizations, non-governmental organizations, and other organizations operating within the combatant commander's area of responsibility. Additionally, these pubs provide guidance to future commanders and principal staff officers currently studying the subject at joint and service professional military education institutions. When I was putting this briefing together, this is the first time I actually realized that the D in DOT MLPF stood for doctrine, and it really makes sense why it's first, because doctrine drives all the other elements. I want to focus now on the key doctrinal points we make throughout the joint doctrine hierarchy of pubs. Civil military operations are a function of command. All services maintain the capability to support CMO, but the Army, Marine Corps, and Navy maintain specialized units that perform CA operations in support of commanders with CMO responsibilities. CA operations are addressed by the following slide. So, civil affairs operations enable the successful conduct of CMO. Give me a second to read it. The next slide reflects how civil affairs operations and CMO fit within unified action.